Oh yeah. Safaria has a beautiful advertisement when you open the page, even if you're already logged in. It says that for Hanukkah, we always have a shamash, the helper candle. And so they said that by any donation that we make, um, we are practicing that as being the helper candle because we are spreading the light of the Torah. So let's try to make the best of it. So the sages instituted three special brachot of thanksgiving within Birkot HaShachar. And by the way, Rabbi Melamed, even though he's not Sephardi, he's doing it according to the Sephardi custom in terms of the order, and we'll see that in a minute when we share the other screen. And so they are for not having made me a Gentile. In the ancient text before the censorship, it said Nochri or Akum, Ovid Kochvim Mazalot, for not having made me a slave, Shelo ASANI Aved, and for not having made me a woman, Shelo ASANI ISHA, and women recite, Blessed Hashem, King, Sovereign of the universe, who has made me, fashioned me according to his will. Shasani KIRTZONO. So, first of all, I want to raise a question that I don't think we discussed when we were learning regular prayer. Made me a slave is not an inborn situation for most people. If you're not born to a slave and you become a slave afterwards, like Yosef did, um, that's not something that Hashem made me or didn't make me. Not making me a non-Jew. Yes, I'm blessed that I was born as a Jew, and converts say that the minute they convert. And Shelo ASANI Isha or Shasani Kirtzono is also Hashem made my gender the way that Hashem wanted, and that's totally up to Hashem. But Shelo ASANI Aved is something that seems to be a little bit more related to the free will of other people, taking away your freedom and stuff like that. But we'll see the explanation in a minute. I just wanted to share with you the Sephardi version. And first of all, the Sephardim and a lot of the Nusach Sfarad or Nusach Hari say Shelo ASANI Goya for a woman and Shelo ASANI Shifcha, which is the maidservant. And then the other thing is that they say that the man says Shelo ASANI Isha with Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, and the Sephardim say Baruch Shasani Kirtzono without Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, because the Sephardim, as we saw in other halachot, are very concerned about saying Hashem's name in vain, and so it's not really in vain, but just like today we don't say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Dayan Ha'emet, we just say Baruch Dayan Ha'emet, and other blessings as such. Then that's why the Sephardim, when in doubt, don't say Hashem's name, because it's not, as far as I know, it's not mentioned in the Rambam. If you remember, we compared the Nusach. We talked about how in the Yerushalmi and in the Geniza, the Cairo Geniza, there's all kinds of other versions of Shasani Israel and Shasani Ben Chorin. Hashem made me a free person or Bat Chorin for a woman, and Israel, the name of the Jewish people before it changed to Judaism. One last thing about Sephardim, we saw the order yesterday of the blessings, and it's almost the same order in the Sephardi, except that the Sephardi immediately after Noten Vivina, the rooster, uh, jump into the things that are specifically about my Thanksgiving when I open my eyes, etc. They do have one change besides that, which is Hanoten Le'ef Koach, who gives strength to the wary, is mentioned in the middle. But the blessings that we just talked about, Shasani, Shelo ASANI Goy, etc., are at the end, just before Hamavir Chevlei Shana. So I wanted to point out those two main differences because it's really more appropriate to say Goya as opposed to Goy, because women have a different way of saying things in the feminine, and that's I think more appropriate. So, what is this bracha about? Especially the last one, Shasani Kirtzono. Rabbi Melamed says there are two interpretations of this blessing. According to one interpretation, it is a sort of acceptance of a harsh judgment, tzedakah adin, of the fact that even though women do not have as many mitzvot, they bless God for having made me according to Hashem's will, out of faith that everything is for the good, meaning that I don't have to change to be a man in order to do those mitzvot. Rather, Hashem gave me that as almost like a gift. And in contrast, the second interpretation emphasizes women's superiority in this world, which Rabbi Malamed talked about in the previous chapter. In this blessing, the innate, 2 chapters ago, innate additional virtue of women is brought to fruition, for women are inherently more in tune with God's will. Therefore, only they can say, "Who made me according to his will." The fact that women must fulfill less mitzvot than men is because by nature they are more refined and therefore require less mitzvot to improve themselves. Maybe just one last comment about that. The conservative and reform movements mostly say just both for men and women, ASANI KIRTZONO, who made me according to his will, because they think that's equality. I don't think that I agree, but that's why I said it's probably the most debated blessing of all. Man was created from dust of the earth, whereas woman was created from a more sublime substance, the man's rib or side. In other words, women are a manifestation of a more advanced stage of development than men. It is no coincidence that the simple interpretation shows favor to men and the deeper meaning to women. Indeed, at first glance, men have greater virtue. The virtue of women can only be recognized by means of a more profound analysis. Therefore, modesty, a trait which emphasizes one's inner virtue, is more significant for women. Of course, also men have to be modest, especially when they are praying. And we talked about sleeves and all kinds of other things. And if you remember, I said that in the yeshiva where I went to in Israel, they had underneath the bima these sleeves with elastic in order for somebody who's wearing a short sleeve shirt to be able to put them on for the modesty of tefillah. In practice, Ashkenazic women have the custom to recite this bracha in full, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam she'asani kirtzono, and whereas Sephardic women, as we showed before, recite this bracha without God's name, she'asani kirtzono, even though Shulchan Aruch rules that God's name should be uttered in this bracha, most Sephardic women customarily omitted it for fear of reciting a bracha levatala, as this blessing is not mentioned in the Talmud, as we saw. And we'll stop here and open up for questions.